3 years ago, this was the sprawling back lot of 20th Century Fox Studios. 260 acres reaching almost to the western border of Beverly Hills. On this historic land, where Tom Mix and Buck Jones once grazed their horses, Fox turned out some of the greatest motion pictures of our time. Today, this vast acreage is the scene of another activity, a real-life drama, the building of a city within a city. This is Century City, a multi-million-dollar development now being erected on the old 20th Century Fox land. How close is it to being a reality? What has happened in the 3 short years since the land was purchased in 1961? Tonight we're going to show you, because tonight marks another high point in the progress of this tremendous undertaking, the preview opening of the Broadway Department Store here in the center of Century Square. Good evening. I'm Tom Franklin, your host tonight for another program from KTLA's Special Affairs Department. Tonight, in cooperation with Alcoa and Century City, keeping you abreast of news and developments of community interest in the greater Los Angeles area. Tonight, the story of Century City, its birth and growth up to now, highlighted by completion of the shopping center and a preview of the first store to open, the Broadway, which opens officially to the public on Monday. Tonight's special opening is by invitation only to help raise funds for the new rehabilitation wing of Children's Hospital, an agency of the United Way. It's hard to believe that this is once where Tom Mix stabled his horses, and later 20th Century Fox recreated an entire street from the village of Lourdes for the Academy Award-winning picture Song of Bernadette. And then came 1961, came the bulldozers, and the classic street of Bernadette's village gave way to a mammoth hole in the ground, so big it provides 30 acres of parking right below my feet. That's only a part of the almost unbelievable story of what has happened here. Before we go into the whole story, let's join the festivities of the Broadway now. First store to open in the new Century Square Shopping Center. And I'd like to take just 30 seconds, if I may, to introduce Mr. Edward W. Carter, president of the Broadway Hale Stores Incorporated.
Hello, Tom.
Ask you how this store ranks in your 25-store chain.
Well, this is the largest one that we've built.
How much did it cost you?
Well, all the bills aren't in yet, Tom, but I would think on the order of $10 million.
Well, it reflects it inside, Mr. Carter.
We think it's the most attractive store we've built. It has the most parking, and a lot of our friends think it's the most functional.
It's elegant and handsome, and we're looking forward to the official opening Monday, and thank you, Mr. Carter. This will give you an idea, I think, some idea at least, of the 5,000 persons coming in now, many of them already in the store, lined up outside, the people who are coming here to the Broadway. There is Mrs. Richard Wolford on the left, chairman of this party for Children's Hospital, and with Mrs. Wolford, Mr. Robert French, manager of the Broadway Century City, and Mrs. Lamport Cowles, hostess chairman. Our hostesses, you'll notice, carry out the international theme of tonight's affair in native costumes of various foreign countries. Here, 2 of them, they're foreign exchange students at UCLA. They're chatting with the chairman of the invitation committee, Mrs. E.H. McLaughlin, Jr., and her father, Mr. Newton Hale, a director of the Broadway Hale department store chain. Mr. Vittorio Sanguinetti and Mrs. Sanguinetti, if you'll step right in. And your official title, Mr. Sanguinetti?
I'm the Italian Trade Commissioner for Los Angeles.
Now, you're the first foreign trade commissioner that I know of to put on a foreign trade fair here in Century City, and do you expect that there will be more of that in the future?
We are the first to move our offices to Century City, and we had the first trade fair with our building material show last June. And we are sure that many other trade representatives from foreign government will move in, because Century City provides the ideal premises and facilities for such displays.
Thank you so much, Mr. and Mrs. Sanguinetti.
Yep.
Enjoy yourself tonight. Mr. Aglione, if you will, please. Raoul Aglione, commercial counselor of France, and Mrs. Aglione. And tell us a little bit about the fact that you're going to bring French Week to Los Angeles, in which Century City will share about a year from now.
Well, next year, exactly a year from now, I'm bringing Paris to Los Angeles. It means bringing all the lovely things of the Avenue des Champs-Élysées, the Place de l'Étoile, the luxury, the glamour, the beauty, the good taste of Paris, and I'm sure that the Angelinos will appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Aglione. Have a good time here at the Broadway tonight. Now for the story of how Century City came into being and its progress up to the moment. It began here in June of 1961 at the studios of 20th Century Fox in West Los Angeles. The studio, which started in 1926 with a few offices and administration buildings, had grown to 260 acres, all the way from Pico Boulevard on the south to Santa Monica Boulevard on the north. From here, a little girl named Shirley Temple won America's heart. And from here came the great spectaculars, The King and I, The Robe, Grapes of Wrath, Les Miserables, Peyton Place. On the back lot stood hundreds of exterior sets, artificial lakes, castles, waterways, and entire towns of false front buildings. But by 1961, the land had become too valuable for this use, and so Fox sold the 260 acres to Aluminum Company of America for urban development. The cost, $43 million, more than the Louisiana purchase, the Gadsden purchase, and the purchase of Alaska all combined. 80 acres were returned to Fox on a leaseback arrangement. But the remaining acreage had to be leveled so that real streets and real buildings could replace the make-believe. A Bell for Adano. Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. 10 North Frederick Street. This had been the world of Jennifer Jones, of Elvis Presley, a world still lighted by the stars of yesteryear. Janet Gaynor, Will Rogers, Charles Farrell and Mary Pickford, Victor McLaughlin, and the tragic shooting stars of Leslie Howard, Tyrone Power, Marilyn Monroe. On October 19, 1961, ground was broken for the beginning of Century City, the largest privately financed urban development in the United States. On hand for the ceremony were key figures: William Zeckendorf Sr., who negotiated the purchase of the land with Spiros Skouras of 20th Century Fox, Frederick J. Close, and Leon E. Hickman, executive vice presidents of Alcoa, the company that put up the money. Frederick J. Giebers, executive director of Century City, associated with the project since 1957. Edmund E. Herscher, director of property development for Fox Studios. And Welton Beckett, the architect who drew the master plan for the entire project. Tearing down the old movie sets was just the beginning. Next came the rearrangement of the earth itself, more than 1 million cubic yards of it to be dug, moved, piled, and leveled. An important part of the plan was to save as many trees as possible. All that could be transplanted were carefully boxed and set aside until they could be replanted in the parks, malls, and along the future streets of Century City. It's believed to have been the largest transplanting program in the history of Southern California. More than 1,200 trees of 20 different varieties were kept in this way. After clearing the land, it was planted with wildflowers to temporarily beautify the landscape until it was needed for construction. Master planner and coordinating architect for the project was Welton Beckett. He also designed the twin office buildings, which were the first scheduled to be built. Designing of the Century Plaza Hotel was given to Minoru Yamasaki, who designed the Science Pavilion at the Seattle World's Fair and the St. Louis Airport. Yo Ming Pei would design the first two 27-story apartment towers. And consulting architect for Century Plaza was the distinguished Pietro Beluschi, Dean of the School of Architecture at Massachusetts Institute of Technology. The 260 acres were divided into 4 quadrants on the master plan. The quadrants were formed by Olympic Boulevard, running east to west, and a new 6-lane divided boulevard running north and south. It's a mile long. The Avenue of the Stars, lavish with gardens, fountains, and sculpture. The southwestern quadrant was the 80 acres leased back to Fox Studios, where they still maintain principal offices, sound stages, and administration buildings. Adjoining it on the east was the 75-acre residential sector, where high-rise apartments would house an estimated 12,000 persons. And here, across Olympic to the north, the commercial area for multi-story office buildings. And west of it, the 4th quadrant would provide for more office buildings. Here also would be a 15-acre shopping center. And south of it, the luxury Century Plaza Hotel. To service the vast Century City complex would require 9 miles of sewers and storm drains. Power lines and other utilities were all to be underground in subterranean conduits. Work began on 10 miles of curbs and gutters that would border 5 miles of streets. When finished, the streets would be turned over to the city of Los Angeles. And to light these streets, modern street lamps were installed, graceful, continuous aluminum. And where the Avenue of the Stars crosses Olympic Boulevard, a bridge was built. To prepare the land for buildings required the largest improvement bond ever posted in the history of Los Angeles, more than $4.5 million. While the overall acreage was being improved, construction moved ahead on the first of the twin office buildings Gateway West, a 13-story structure that would contain 600,000 square feet of office space. In the spring of 1963, Century City is flooded with California poppies, and nature adds her golden hue to the window walls of new light gold aluminum on Gateway West. While the interior of the first office building was being finished, work got underway for the shopping center. Here at the old entrance to the studio on Santa Monica Boulevard would be Century Square, a truly regional shopping center serving all of Southern California, just 5 minutes from the San Diego freeway. It began with excavating for a 2-story garage with 15 acres of parking on each level, to handle 9,000 cars a day. Directly across from Gateway West, its sister building, Gateway East, is started with the pouring of footings. On the eastern side of Century City, the Automobile Club of Southern California puts up its new West Side Regional Office. Traditionally, the Auto Club buildings have always had a mission style of architecture, still somewhat preserved in this new three-story structure. On September 25th of last year, the first office building, Gateway West, was completed. And gathered to celebrate its dedication were the original planners, friends, tenants, and honored guests. Mayor Yorty arrived by helicopter. It was a festive occasion for all who had a part in the planning and development of Century City, among them Frederick J. Giebers, Executive Director, Leon E. Hickman of Alcoa, and architect Welton Beckett, who had designed the building. With the dedication of Gateway West, the model buildings took on a new meaning. The first was a reality, and its sister building, Gateway East, was progressing rapidly. Moving south down the Avenue of the Stars, future office buildings are planned on either side. On the right, as you cross Constellation Boulevard, will be the Century Plaza Hotel, scheduled for completion late next year. It will be operated by Western International Hotels, third largest hotel chain in the world. The graceful curving arc is 450 feet long and will be 20 stories high. While the architectural style of Century City buildings is generally contemporary, the planners are depending on each architect to create his own individual design for each building, so long as it conforms to the overall harmony of the master plan. Leading from the hotel under the Avenue of the Stars will be a shop-lined arcade going into what may become the most important cultural center in the West. Like the shopping center, office and residential buildings, the new cultural center will be only minutes away from those who live and work in Century City. When completed, the Century Plaza Hotel will have 800 rooms and will encompass 3 acres of terraced grounds and resort activities. The main ballroom will provide banquet facilities for 2,000 persons, the largest such room west of Chicago. In the spring of this year, Gateway East is finished, and the Avenue of the Stars has its celestial fountain. Where the Avenue of the Stars joins Pico Boulevard, the first 2 high-rise apartment buildings go up. Century Towers, 27 stories high. 108 apartments, each with its own private balcony, will be ready for occupancy in early 1965. And here's a view from the penthouse, looking north along the Avenue of the Stars. While the developers of Century City were busy putting up buildings, they still found time to beautify the landscape along the railroad tracks of Santa Monica Boulevard. Under a private arrangement, Century City removed a series of 11 billboards, compensating the owners for their subsequent loss of advertising revenue. An automatic sprinkler system was installed along the entire half-mile median strip. Crushed rock and extensive landscaping were put in along the tracks, including 50 trees and multicolored shrubbery. For this community service, Century City received a special award from Los Angeles Beautiful. And for Century City, it meant a more pleasing outlook for people who would visit Century Square, the shopping center, going up on the Century City side of Santa Monica. The shopping center would cover 15 acres on the mall level, plus 30 acres of parking underneath. And now that the parking levels had been built, the mall structures were underway. Century Square would consist of 6 buildings in addition to the Broadway Department Store. These buildings would house a supermarket, a wide variety of specialty shops, fine restaurants, and other department stores, including a 36,000 square foot Joseph Magnin store. On the eastern perimeter of Century City, adjoining Beverly Hills, Pacific Telephone is constructing the first electronic switching office in the West. It's a radical departure from present-day systems. Through a wide use of transistors and other electronic devices, it will handle calls 1,000 times faster. With the installation of this new system, residents of the area will be able to dial frequently called numbers with just 2 digits. The new system will forward calls to another phone and advise of waiting calls when the subscriber's phone is in use. It will allow the subscriber to dial a third party into the conversation. The initial 2-story building will be completed near the end of this year. Eventually, it will be expanded to 5 stories. As we rolled into September 1964, the Broadway Department Store and other buildings of the shopping center neared completion. With all parking below mall level, the mall itself is used only for pedestrian traffic. 3 escalators will bring patrons from the parking areas to the mall. Besides the Broadway, which opens officially to the public on Monday, other stores here at Century Square will be opening in the near future, including Joseph Magnin, the Century House Restaurant, Martindale's Bookshop, Silverwood's, Mayfair Market, Judy's Century City, and many more fine retail establishments. One building, unique in its design, is the Century House Restaurant. It again emphasizes the originality of architecture in Century City without breaking the overall harmony of the master plan. Last week, the finishing touches were put on the Broadway and the surrounding mall for the special preview opening of the Broadway here tonight. And that's the story of Century City, truly a city within a city. And now this is Tom Franklin thanking you for being with us and saying we hope you've enjoyed this special report on Century City. Another look at what's happening in the Los Angeles around us, presented by the Special Affairs Department of KTLA, through the cooperation of Century City and Alcoa.